Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode. We're super excited today to have. Can't start laughing because I see you laughing and now I'm laughing. Super excited today to be joined by a guest. Someone was crazy enough to say yes to being on our show.
Woo.
So join us in welcoming our first guest, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza creator, Elon Werner. Hey.
How are you guys doing?
Oh boy, we're having a day.
We're off to a start. We're off to a
It,
start. So
it's a start.
if there's
Uh,
if there's any guess, today was Monday. Today is Monday.
oh yeah.
It is.
Oh man. Um, so lots to talk about. Super excited to have you here. I didn't think when I was just idly talking about Drag Race Bracket Bonanza on our last show that you would ever see it. I did. I will be very honest and say I almost edited out a section of what I said in that last video, but I was like, no, I said it, whatever. And then you
Yeah.
saw it, and I was like, oh crap.
No, because hearing you say, "I can't believe you saw me talking about Drag Race Bracket Bonanza." Imagine my shock of, "I can't believe there's someone, not me, talking about Drag Race Bracket Bonanza." So that I just
Right.
thought that was like a very surreal kind of thing. Like I kind of knew people in the NHRA universe that kind of saw me on tour and I talked to about it, but the fact that someone else found it,
Yeah.
figured it out, and liked it enough to play it, much less publicly talk about it, like I seriously was just like, thought it was really cool.
Okay, no, see,
So
I was having that exact same reaction when you messaged me to be on the show. I was like, oh my God, someone wants to be on our show. What?
yeah, so it all worked. It all, the universe is a wonderful place.
It is. Um, so I was professional. I did write down questions. Um, so I guess for people, so I play, but Emu doesn't play. She just heard me talking about it. So kind of explain to her and for everybody that doesn't know.
Sure. Well, what I love about it is the fact that I am a huge sports fan, first of all, always have been.
Hmm.
And I played some college basketball, very low level. So I was always familiar with college basketball tournament, in March.
Hmm.
Uh, and, it became part of the cultural deal to fill out your brackets in March, whether you knew anything about college basketball or not. You're in your office, everybody throws in a couple bucks, one person wins or a couple people win. And it just became a thing, and everybody does it, whether you know college basketball or not. Well, I've been in drag racing for 30 years,
Hmm.
and I've been on tour for over 20. Um, and I've always, we fill out brackets like at the race to just kind of keep track of our drivers and things like that. But I've always thought, man, would be great for fans to do.
Yeah.
It's funny at ZMAX Dragway, Jonathan Coleman, the PR guy there, they actually do a bracketology where they
Oh,
have
right.
everyone
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they fill out the brackets for the four wide and for the fall race. And if you win that, it's like for the media and PR people. And if you win that, you get like an autographed section of the press room backdrop
Hmm.
by the winners. And then you also get more importantly, you get a reserved parking space right
Ooh.
at the press room for the next event.
Okay.
And then Jonathan mails you because it says this spot reserved for Elon Werner, winner of bracketology, which I have the sign. I won it one time, and I have the sign in my garage.
Nice.
So I was like, we're doing that at a couple races. I need to figure out a way to make it a real thing. And I thought
Hmm.
about it for a couple years. It's one of those things, you're in a bar, you're talking to your buddies. You know, I probably talked to Brian Loans about it for a year and a half and went so far as to try to think of names and what websites were available one night. And then it just kind of went dormant. But and I just, for whatever reason, at the beginning of this year, I just decided I'm going to make it happen. So
Cool.
I knew a kid that had just graduated um, Aiden Lampkin had graduated from Colorado School of the Mines, which is a huge nerd factory in Golden, Colorado. He will appreciate me saying that, but I mean, it's like super smart computer kids, STEM out the wazoo, the whole deal.
Okay.
And he is the best friend of my son. So we actually do all kinds of intra-family games, have a trophy from basically picking the college basketball to NFL. And, we've done Tour de France, we've done World's
Oh,
Strongest Man competitions, all kind of crazy stuff. So I was like, can you make this happen? Here's what I need to do. He's not a drag racing guy, Emu. So getting him to understand how the racing works has been interesting. Um, but we just decided, hey, we spent from probably February through, to get to July making it. And then we started testing it this summer with a really small group of people. And it worked. And the whole goal this year was to see if we could make it work, see if we could get people interested in picking drag racers. And we have every race, we have basically a 64 car field, which is just like the college basketball tournament in the spring. And you just kind of build on it. And it's going to be even better in 2024. I mean, this year really was kind of proof of concept. I don't think it really looked that great, but it worked. Um, so I'm super excited that you figured it out, Kyra.
me
So
too.
the fact that, you know, the user interface, people haven't done it. So when you ran across it, let's flip the script. I'm gonna ask you, when you ran
Mhm.
across it, how did you see it? And then how did you get involved in it?
Okay, so I always tootle around on NHRA Twitter. I'm always seeing things, and I saw tweets about it, and I was like, at first I was like, okay, maybe because we had been doing F1 Fantasy this year,
Right?
and it made me want to die inside a little bit. It was like so much, and it was so involved. Like it was just like the community was kind of toxic, and it was not great. And I was like not enjoying it, so I was a little bit nervous about seeing something else. But I clicked on it. I was like, okay. It immediately gave me March Madness vibes because I did it with my brothers this year. We filled out a
Right.
bracket for the first time, and I was like, this is so stupid and so fun. Like, I love this kind of thing. So I will admit the first time I did it wrong.
Right.
So it like didn't count. And I was like, oh, but it was easier to use than I thought. And I was like, okay. And after the first race, I got into it. I was like, I know how to do this. This is fine.
Good.
So yeah, it's very user friendly. Like after the first time, after like looking at everything and figuring it out, I was like, okay, I'm good. I got this.
And that was the hardest part for me, was designing it to be user friendly, um, and then being reactive to how some things that I thought were made sense, as far as, okay, if this button is here, we need to make this, as clear as possible. So we kind of tweaked it as we went. Drag Race Bracket Bonanza 2.0 in 2024 will be, I think, even more user friendly.
Okay.
It will be, I don't know if we're going to have the app by the start of the season, but we will have an app next year as well. So it won't be browser dependent.
That
And that
was
was a conscious, that was a conscious decision on my part,
yes.
um, about whether or not I wanted to do an app or something web based.
Hmm.
And I opted to go with the website, for a couple reasons, honestly. Because one, an app is always vertical on your phone.
Yeah.
Whereas if I do the website, I knew you could turn your phone sideways and it would kind of give you a little bit more space to figure things out. And I
Hmm.
didn't know, um, and then you could do both, but I designed it and challenged, um, Aiden and his team with, okay, if it's on the web, it still has to look good on the phone.
Yeah.
So we try to do that, but the whole goal was to give it that, college basketball vibe and let you understand what it was, but then also moving forward, when the ladders are set next year, there'll be pictures of the drivers beside their names.
Oh, I really like that.
you'll see it'll say like, John Force versus Ron Capps. Then they'll have like their head-to-head record, so
Mm,
you get
hmm.
little stats. And then we're trying to figure out how we can provide a little bit more stat information so people can make a more, if you're not a huge fan, you can feel like, oh, hey, I at least have a little bit more information to make a pick.
Right.
And I want it to be able for someone like Emu, who doesn't know anything about drag racing. um, Emu can go in and be like, okay, I want to pick all the women racers.
Mhm.
I
She
want to
does
pick
that. When we do
I
our
want
stuff, she does that.
I want to pick all the black racers. Or I'm a big Chevy guy. I
Yep.
want to pick all the Chevy. So right now, you do need to feel like you need to know a little bit more about it to make a
Yeah.
guess. And so I'm trying to make it so that the tent can be bigger and people will feel comfortable sharing with their friends and they can just pick just because they want to pick. And we'll have smaller chunks next year too. There'll be a full season champion. So there'll be someone who has the highest points earned over 21 races.
Okay.
There'll still be a countdown champion.
Okay.
And then we're going to also, because I'm worried about bracket fatigue. The college
Yeah.
basketball tournament works because you just do it once a year.
Hmm.
Our deal is an ongoing deal. You want to make it kind of like fantasy, but you also want to give people the immediacy of here's
Yes.
a winner. So we'll have there'll be like some sub series. One of them will be like the majors, which I
Hmm.
consider Gator Nationals, Winter Nationals, and then the U.S. Nationals.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the person that gets the highest score on those three, we'll do one for the Western Swing, and then we'll do one for the 2 4 wides. So there'll be some mini series that'll still all build off of the full season, and they'll also have league play next year, so you'll be able to create your own league.
Ooh. Okay, I'm so excited about that. That was like you just said like three things that I had on my list to ask about. So
Yeah,
I'm so excited for that. I love that.
yeah. So you'll be able to create your own league, invite people to play in your league, and then you'll just have your own, have your own thing. So, and it's still all will be free. So,
Okay.
so my whole goal is to have this be truly fantasy because obviously I think gambling betting will come into NHRA at some point,
Oh yeah.
but when, there's a lot of overhead with that.
Hmm.
Also, it takes out anyone 18 or under. This
Yeah, or people that live in a state like me, where you're
right,
not allowed to do sports betting.
or you're not allowed to do that. So this way, there's no cost. You just get to play. So any of your listeners or viewers, we will be looking for advertisers for 2024. We're putting a marketing deck together by race or whatever. So, but right now it's still an Elon Werner production. So
Hmm.
this is just totally, and I've committed to doing it all for 2024 because I think it's really cool. I think the sport needs
Yeah.
it. Um, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I get a big kick out of, I play, I'm terrible because
Oh, I'm terrible too.
pick with my, I vacillate between picking with my heart and picking with my head,
Yes.
and I'm never correct.
I had so many times this year where I got the right answer by picking the wrong formula. Like I don't know, but it was never nitro. Like I consider myself to be a nitro girl. Like that's what I grew up with. Like that's where my knowledge lies. I was getting my butt handed to me every single week, and I'm like, there's so many spoilers happening. Like, what am I
Those,
doing?
those Alex Laughlin, Blake Alexander, Dave Richards upsets in the first
Oh
round
my god, they're killer.
smokes so many, and that to me is what I loved about seeing things on Twitter and Instagram or Facebook when people like Sunday at an hour and a half after the race starts and they're like, well, my bracket's shattered.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bob Tasca. Things like that, and then to see drivers engage later on in the countdown of like, hey, I'm really sorry I blew up your bracket. I mean, that to me was just it was very it was just insane to see that it actually was working and people were getting behind it. And I just loved everything about it, and I'm looking forward to making it even bigger in 2024 and really helping it, like, for people like us, use it as a tool to bring more people into NHRA. And
Yeah.
I get a lot of questions about people are like, well, I always have to do all 4 categories. And I can unequivocally say yes, because I'm a nitro guy. I just became a pro stock person a few years ago when I started working
Yep.
with Cameron Crusoe. Um, I know just enough about pro stock motorcycle to be dangerous.
Hmm.
Uh, I knew Gage Herrera was a freight train this year,
Oh my gosh,
but I
yeah.
would consistently think like this can't sustain itself. No one is going to win every like. So I would be like, okay, I'd pick them to the semis, the finals, but I was like, okay, this is the race Matt Smith is going to win. This is the race Eddie Craig is going to win.
Yep.
No, no, no. This is Gage Herrera, you know,
He won
forever.
11 races this year. Like, what the hell?
Right. I mean, but the thing that was so funny is, I had the plaques for the winners,
Hmm.
and that was kind of new, and I felt weird about it because I knew a lot of these guys. Um, so I had all 5 plaques, and we first started. I kind of had them off in a little corner of the press room, and I would sheepishly at the U.S. Nationals first time I was like, "Hey, doing this thing, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza." Had to kind of explain it to the guys, and they were all super cool about it. No driver had any problem with it. But by the end, Gage would walk into the press room and be like, "Hey, where are those plaques I need to sign?" It was part of his press room
You,
routine, which was really
you like
funny.
Pavloved him to come and just sign it.
Yeah, he just completely conditioned to come in. Oh, I'm gonna get. I got to sign these. I got to sign the plaques real quick. And it was cool. Also, we did the championship belts for the overall um, champions, and the fact that Alex Owens, who is one of the photographers on tour, actually was runner up and
Hmm.
was at Pomona, and I was able to like give him his championship belt, and he was
That's really
like,
cool.
he came into Pomona like I think he said 15th place,
Oh wow.
and jumped up, and then so I knew he'd won because they kind of give me a report, and I was like, Alex, I go, is that Alex Owens? And they were like, yeah, and I go, send me his email address because I don't have all that data handy, and I was like, son of a gun, and so I went to him, and I was like, hey, of all 4 of the world champions, is there one that you're more of a fan of?
Hmm.
And he was like, oh, probably Doug Coletta. And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll see you. Like, I'll be out there and I'll come track you down in Doug Coletta's winter circle. He's working. I mean, he's taking pictures for auto imagery and all the stuff. So we kind of started winding down. And I was like, hey, Doug, do you have a second? And he was like, he's in, of course, Top Fuel World Champion, Pomona
Yeah.
winner, Euphoria. I could have asked him probably to commit murder and he'd have been fine with it. Um, he wouldn't. He's too nice of a guy. But
True.
I was like, hey, can I do this deal? And so I brought Alex over and I pulled the belt out and I was like, Alex, you were the runner up. And then like Doug and I presented him the belt together and like took a picture in his winner's circle. And that was really like Alex was like totally so
Yeah.
being able to do things like that. And I want to do and I think want to grow the community to where we can do some on-site events like a Saturday night fill out the bracket party like we did one at Michael Waltrip's Tap House in
Hmm.
Charlotte. And so we'll probably try to do pinpoint some races to do some more truly social events like that
Yeah.
because I like the um, community aspect of it. I like the um, being able to kind of have some bragging rights and have your bracket.
Hmm.
Um, we'll be able to. We're working on the functionality, so when you do fill out your bracket, you can share it on your social media channels next year.
Okay, that was also a thing on my list,
Yeah,
shareability, because I'm like, I can try to screenshot everything, but if I can just like,
exactly. So we're going to try that. We're going to work on that, and we're also going to have it to where you can um,
ooh,
print your bracket out once it's filled out because people like to be able to kind of have it. Like I'm old school. I like to have physical paper and stuff.
yes,
So we're trying to work on all those things. But it's so we luckily have the off season to do it, and with the race starting in March, season starting in March, um, trying to bring all those user friendly aspects into it, and also make it look a lot prettier.
yeah,
Um, so but again, it was really this year was really about seeing if it would work, seeing if we could get people to play it, um, and it grew. Every race we've got NHRA got involved. I worked a deal out with them for the last 2 races for Vegas and Pomona, and that obviously helped tremendously.
Yeah.
Um, and so if we can, um, at the end, we had well over 1,000 people signed up and playing.
Oh wow.
Um, so I think if, the goal is going to be to maintain as many of those people, retain as many of those people. I think the familiarity will be a little bit better
Hmm.
rolling into March. And then if we can show the same growth rate that we saw from basically from the fall nationals to Vegas, Vegas to the World Finals, and then coming out of the World Finals, over 21 races next year, you could see upwards of 20,000 people playing by the end
Wow.
of the year, which I think would be really cool. I mean, that's a whole community. I think the leagues will help. But it's just cool, I think, to just get people more involved in the sport, and making
Yeah.
them get involved in all four categories also um, helps out. So
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, one of the things that I noticed throughout the season that I really liked was the community aspect, because I didn't really get that with other fantasy stuff that I've done. It's very like competitive and like everyone wants to kill each other. But there's always like a little, and there's always going to be like a little bit of like trash talk with each other, like who
sure,
wants to be better and stuff. But it was like rooted in goodness. It was just like fun and lighthearted. And I noticed like for myself on like the content creation side, forming friendships with other drag racing creators that I hadn't known about before. And I was like, this is cool. It's creating community. And like I said, my audience is not rooted in drag racing. They're sports car racing fans, they're IndyCar fans, you know. So I've been trying since I started to like get people
sure,
into it, because it's the sport that like changed my life when I was 7 years old. And I was like, my dad took me to my first race, and I was like, I have to, like, this is what I want to do with my life. Like, this is so cool. Like, I have to
yeah,
be involved in this. And I just want everyone to see how great it is.
right. And that to me is we're totally simpatico on that. Is that I, unlike you, I was did not grow up in a motorsports family. I totally lucked into the drag racing universe through a job, and now 30 years later, I'm still love it. My kids have grown up in the. My kids are drag racing people. My daughter Abby helps me out with a lot of the social media stuff, so she was actually um, super involved in helping kind of build that community and maintain that community. Um, because honestly, I still try to cram 25 hours worth of stuff into 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
But there's some things I just can't do. So she's been great as far as because I knew I wanted people when they were making comments or had a question, I wanted them to know that there was actually someone else on the other end of that tweet or comment
Mm-hmm.
or post that, you know, wanted them to have a good time, wanted to help them out. And like I did, when I was trying to getting it up and running, and I'll do it again, I spent hours going through Facebook and tracking down drag racing groups
Yeah.
and, basically um, trying to do things, versus just randomly posting on these groups. I would message the administrator and, hey, I started this thing. Is it okay? I'd like to join the group. Is it okay for, so it's been universally overall, really accepted of like, hey, this is great. Why hasn't anyone else done this sooner?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's been very satisfying. And also, we had some real crazy things happen that we show how unique our sport is, from the Vegas, Bob Tasca and Robert Height. They announced
Oh
Bob
my
Tasca's
gosh.
number one
Yeah.
qualifier, and then an hour and a half later, they switch it. We had to figure out on the fly how to manage that. So we now have a system for that. Um, the uniqueness of the Angie Smith situation. When
Yeah.
is she going to race? Is she not going to race? And then when she kind of started racing, you know, kind of communicating that to people.
Mm-hmm.
We had no idea in Pomona that Matt Smith wasn't going to run the second round, that he just basically just decided to, so that there's there are some things in our sport that inside the sport you're kind of like, oh yeah, I know why you did that, but for people that aren't familiar with the sport,
Mm-hmm.
um, helping them figure that stuff out has also been kind of cool to be on. I don't think we'll ever be a news resource, but
Right.
we will become a resource for people that are like, eventually I would like to be a resource when gambling does come into the sport,
Mm-hmm.
that we could somehow have a symbiotic relationship with a FanDuel or an MGM
Yeah.
casino or whoever, um, just based on the fact that we'll have this huge data pool. Because that's the really other thing is, and I think you probably saw like when we would put the graphs up
Mm-hmm.
about who people thought would win. That's stuff that I think is super interesting because I'm a stat nerd.
Oh, absolutely same.
Yeah, and
I
so
love that stuff.
we can see like when we do our upset alerts, like when we close the basically lock the brackets right before Top Fuel, we can run a report and see every like percentage wise who people think are going to win every first round matchup.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think there's got to be a outlet for that information,
Mm-hmm.
um, even if it's just I don't know anything about how gambling works other than they want to have as much information as possible.
Yeah.
So if we can just naturally provide them without altering our game at all,
Mm-hmm.
okay, when the brackets open, here's where people think who's going to win in this arc, and go from there. I think that has some value. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just excited to be talking about Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. This has just kind of got me all fired up on a Monday.
Well, no, I'm excited too because these are the things like all the things that you've been saying are the things that I was like picking up on and like saying to like my dad and like my friends. I'm like, you guys, I'm like nerding out over this thing. Like, it's just so cool. So I'm just very excited we're having this conversation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There are a lot of people that I'm playing with my dad. I'm playing with my brother. Bob Tasca's kids apparently for 2 years had been physically writing out brackets
Oh
and
wow.
filling out brackets just internally amongst all the Tasca kids. So they actually, I know Joey Little, Bob Tasca's social media guy, who came on this year and like gangbusters, like
Oh, he killed
really
it.
took social media to the next level. Um, and um, Austin, one of the sons, comes to me and goes, "Hey man, I found this Drag Race Bracket Bonanza game, and I mean this is really cool." And Joe was like, "Yeah, I know the guy that did that." He's like, he sits beside me in the press room. This was St. Louis. He's like, "Do you want to meet him?" So I went and met him, and he was just like, "Man, this thing is so great." And they did a ton of because they're fans and they liked playing the game and they wanted to have
Yeah.
an outlet. And then Cam, Austin's brother, Cam Tasca, won I think Pro Stock Motorcycle for St. Louis because I gave him his plaque in Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's just a cool, I just like that it's working, and then I'm looking forward to kind of getting back involved. I mean, I'm looking forward to the season started, but I'm also looking forward to getting Drag Race Bracket Bonanza back up and running in March.
Yeah, I will say one of the things that I really liked and have continued to like is the fact that there are tangible prizes if you win because other things you don't really get that unless you finish in like the top 3 or you win against like people in the entire world. But the fact that there was like tangible prizes, I was like, there's so much care and effort going into this, and I'm such like a nerd for those things. I have like a section of the wall like over there just full of like signed things from
Yeah. Yeah.
drivers from all different sports. So that was really cool to me.
That was really important to me is I wanted it to look different than just a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also was hyper like when I got home, I traveled with the plaques. And then when I got home, we'd send an email, "Hey, congratulations, you won. Send me your address." And then if I got their address, I would go that day, if not first thing next morning, and get their plaque in the mail to them because I wanted, honestly, that immediacy. I wanted, frankly, for them to get it and hopefully post it on social media
Mm-hmm.
to just help prime the pump that, okay, you really do win cool stuff. And I was there, um, like when the U.S. Nationals. Caps won funny car, so I had Caps and Don Prudhomme sign the
That's so
funny car,
cool.
and then whoever's the overall winner had Caps and Prudhomme and the other three winners. When Doug won Redding Coletta in Top Fuel, that
Mhm.
was his 50th Top Fuel win. So I had him sign the Top Fuel plaque, Doug Coletta, number 50. So every plaque, and like I had Chad Green won Pomona, I had just like, hey, do you mind signing this Chad Green first win?
Yeah.
To just give it that extra special sizzle
Yeah.
because I know how important that is as a fan and just to have something really cool to just have as a memento.
Yeah.
And I love people seeing, people, oh, this is where I put it in my office or in my house, or I moved my kid's recital picture off to the side to put my Drag Race Bracket Bonanza plaque.
No, I
So
love it. I think that's so cool. Um, I think one of the things that, it's funny when you were talking about wanting people to be able to like see the drivers and see stats is when Emu and I do things, because we have our own predictions race for various races throughout the season. We do the IMSA endurance races, we do the Indy 500, and then we do NHRA champions and IndyCar champion. And what she does, I will make her a list because I like to pick off of stats and drivers and who I like and all
sure.
those things. She picks off of pictures. She's
Mhm.
like, because this is not her world. I brought her into this world, like a little bit against her will at first, but
Yeah.
now she loves it. It's great.
I lost an NFL game because the person I lost to, Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, was a good-looking guy and had great hair and a great smile. So she just kept going all in on Joe Burrow, and it was the year the
Yep.
Bengals went to the Super Bowl.
Yep. That's what Emu does to me all the time.
Yep.
And I'm like, it is just, but there's, if you, yeah, I love that aspect, and I want to bring that into Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, and to
Yeah.
give people like Emu the opportunity to. I'm only going to pick all the red cars, or I'm going to pick the pink motorcycles, or I'm going to pick, this guy, and create that atmosphere because sometimes that just does work out.
Yep.
Yeah. It's hilarious to me the number of times when after a race I've been like marking things down. I'm just like, because I know that she's gonna get one up on me, and I'm like, God dang it.
Painful. It drives me, and that's the thing. People are like, "Oh, you should be really good at this game," and I was like, "I'm not very good at all.
No.
I'll start out like my total point projections. Oh, okay, looking solid, and then after the
Mm-hmm.
first couple rounds, 300th, 447th. Yeah,
I
not.
finished the year 166th, and I was like, I feel
That's
like
pretty
that's a
solid.
win. Where's my plaque?
That's a top 10%. That's a top 10% finish, and we're working on um, posting kind of the full overall um, finishers because that's the other thing people want to be able to see is kind of where they are in the universe, like how many people are playing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we're going to work on that. We're going to try to expand the leaderboard so you might see the top 20 and
Okay.
then where your position is. Um, so, because we want, people do want to know, okay, how significant is it if I am, well, if you're in the top 100 out of 15,000 people, that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
And I get a kick out of people that were just like, man, I'm just trying to crack the top 10. And then they crack the top 10 and they're like, yeah, this is a major accomplishment. And
Yeah.
that's what you want and people that are watching the races now. And it's funny. I have people that were like beta testers that knew I worked in drag racing, but didn't really care, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But after kind of beta testing and then they started playing, they would text me and it was obvious they were watching the TV show or they had become fans because they're like, I'm not going to sleep on J.R. Todd this race.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, hey, I have good feeling about, hey, I think this could be, the race that Clay Millican turns it around. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I know for a fact without Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, there's no way these people know who J.R. Todd is.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know who Clay Millican is. They don't, they're not watching the Fox broadcast. So I'm hopeful that that kind of trend continues. And my next big goal is to get Brian Loans to say something about Drag Race Bracket Bonanza on the Fox broadcast or the FS1 broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of been feeding Fox the stats, and I know it's that to me is like the next level of getting the NHRA to help me promote it. That was a big step. But the minute Brian Lone says something about Drag Race Bracket Bonanza over the Fox airwaves, you'll be able to see the pistols being shot in the air from Mansfield, Texas, pretty quickly, or whatever press room I'm in. So,
Oh my gosh. So, Emu, you've
Mhm.
been kind of just like sitting there listening to us.
Yes.
Things.
Oh,
Oh.
it broke.
Um. Well.
oh, did I go away?
Yeah, you did.
There
I
we
thought
go.
I thought Amy was just tired of me. I thought she's like, "Yeah, you're right. This guy has
Yeah.
been talking a long time." Thank you for ruining me.
I don't know how to do
If she would
that.
exit anyone, it would be me.
Yeah.
Um. So, Emu, thoughts, feelings, questions so far?
Yeah, my main question is, what are your thoughts and feelings about a Prius drag racing?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, I will watch anything Drag Race. I will do Prius. The electric cars don't bother me, other than the fact they don't make enough sound. I think if
True.
you're going to do an electric car, you should have a guy strapped to the top of it with a straight up double cassette deck boombox on top of it, blasting whatever car you want it to sound like. But I will drag race. I'm the guy that when I pull up to a stoplight, I drive a 2003 Honda Odyssey minivan, by the way. Complete beater vehicle. It's got 330,000 miles on it. But when I pull up to a stoplight and I'm the first person there, and someone pulls up beside me, if they stop and then kind of roll it forward just a little bit, even though I know they're just either not paying attention, but I feel like, oh, we're gonna race now. Oh, this is gonna happen. So yeah, so I'm up for racing anything, Emu. You name the strip. You bring the Prius. I'll bring my Honda Odyssey, and it'll be on.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Oh man, I'm gonna film the whole thing. It'll be live. It'll be on our YouTube channel. It'll be
Yes,
everywhere.
for sure.
Race of the year.
For sure. Wagon rights.
Somehow I knew she was gonna work Priuses into this because that's been her thing for the entire time that we have had this podcast. Because she drives a Prius. She wants to have it in every racing series ever.
I don't see any reason why we can't make that happen. We for sure your Friday night strip, drag strips you could have
Yeah.
all your Prius pals. You could come up with the whole you just call them all your Prius pals, Emu, and you come up with your own little sticker, just like those crazy Jeep people that do the duck thing. Have you
Oh,
heard
the
about
ducks.
this?
Yeah.
Ducks. Emu, we can make this happen. We can
I'm
come up
ready.
with
The Prius pals.
Oh my gosh.
you could do little porcupines. They could be like little Prius
that'd be cute.
porcupines.
Oh my gosh.
And
So
you could
cute.
just do that.
I think that's
She
a great
has
idea.
a bad history with cute little like plastic things though, because she had some on her dashboard and then they melted, and it was
They
the
did.
funniest picture I've
Oh.
ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
I laughed for an hour.
It's fine.
That'll happen in Dallas a lot. Like I left my parking pass one year on the dashboard of my car when I got back from the airport, and it was like July, and then I went out the
Oh,
next
no.
day and I like peeled it up off the dashboard, and then I had to get like this little putty knife to scrape off the residue, and then my parking pass just looked like a Ruffles potato chip the last half of the season. So I feel your pain,
Oh.
Emu.
Yeah. There's still some residue there. I'm a little too lazy to clean it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Big Blue doesn't get very much TLC anymore either. After 330,000 miles, it's just kind of, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's just kind of there.
Yeah.
If it gets you from A to B, that's what matters.
Right. So Emu, so Kyra brought you into this. What passion points do you have besides racing? Are you music? I mean, you got your Prius thing going. If you're gonna bring Kira into some kind of um, gaming
Ah,
situation,
yes.
what would it be?
I mean, I'm a big sucker for escape rooms. Kira and I sometimes will play
Ooh,
escape room games.
okay.
We do that. It's so fun.
It's
Also a fan of the
fantastic.
escape room
Yes.
because I like family conflict. There's
Exactly.
nothing better than
I will fight anyone who's not fully in it and trying to solve all the puzzles.
yes, I'm right there with you. I think we could be good escape room partners
Yep.
because I'm the person that if we're in an escape room and you're not contributing, it's like we're climbing K2. I will just cut the rope and let you fall off the side of the mountain. I'll just like,
Yeah.
just get in the corner. You're screwing it up. Hey, I know this is an 8-person escape room. We're now down to 7. Tim, you're out.
Tim's gone.
So yeah, so I'm a big fan. Escape rooms are a big
Yep.
player.
Yep. Love escape rooms. Animals, I don't know.
All right, now I saw Kira made a killer apple pie,
Oh,
Yeah.
I did do that.
and
Thank you.
yeah, I also made an apple pie for Thanksgiving. But line, your visual was very strong, so much so that I really almost suspected it could have been photoshopped. But then after more investigation, it was not.
Okay, you know what? You're not the first person to tell me that.
It's on 2 carpets.
I'm good at making things look good, okay?
Okay. So
It's way more effort to Photoshop a pie anyway.
True.
yeah, but again, we live in a world where people would rather put that effort in than actually making
It's
a good
true,
pie.
but I'm lazy.
I like making good
Lazy
pie.
about certain things.
And I
I'd
also
rather
respect
have
that.
a good pie.
Yeah. Yeah. So my pie was great, but it did not have just the visual perfect 4 slits.
Yeah, we do like we're both into like cooking and baking and stuff, so
Right.
we
Okay.
do that.
Yep.
But she also is like into K-pop and I'm not.
True.
But
Okay.
we did in another Discord that we were part of, we had like a music bot. It was like a game and you would get to pick any of the categories that you wanted, to play and to like guess the songs. And there was a K-pop one. So she wanted to do that like all the time. I was like the only one was like, but the first time we did it, I don't know if it was divine intervention, but I won, and she was so.
Oh my gosh.
It's fine.
I was just like picking things that I'm like, okay, I know it's not BTS or I know it's not like Stray Kids because those are the things that I know because of her and because
And not
of the
every answer
internet.
can be BTS. Not every answer can be that.
So I was just like clicking and like hoping for the best, and I have the screenshot somewhere. I was like, I won this.
I feel like you won because you were the first person to ever successfully get a perfect score on the SAT by just going A B C D A B C D A B C
100%.
D.
Yeah, probably. I did better on the practice ACT than I did on the actual ACT. So
Yeah, all those tests are insanely dumb.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
tell you
100%,
nothing.
yeah.
All right, so now baking. So you do pies. What else are we baking these days?
So pie is like my main thing because for
Okay.
holidays and stuff, my dad really loves pie. So the first time
Mhm.
I made one, I was like 17, 18, still like living at home. He's like, you want to do that? And I was like, okay. And then he's like, now you have to make this for Father's Day and my birthday and all the things. I'm like, okay, I can
Okay,
do that. But,
do that.
brownies, cakes, just like all the little things.
Right.
I love a good banana bread.
Oh yeah, I just made some banana bread last week.
It's so good.
So I'm a big closet baker. Not even really a closet baker. Where this is the greatest week of the year for me. This is Cookie Palooza week.
Oh,
So we do a holiday party, and I bake 15 different kinds of cookies.
oh, I would be
So
down for that.
That's a lot
Sounds so
of
fun.
cookies.
yeah, so I bake basically starting tomorrow night. I'll bake every night, and the party's on Sunday. So
I want cookie updates. Now that I know this is a
oh
thing, I want updates.
yes, you will get it because it is it's my wife. Like John Force always say, my wife loves me. She just doesn't like me sometimes because she's like, it's grown to where now there are 15 different kinds of cookies. And then I do a sausage ball and a broccoli ball as little
Ooh.
sides. And yeah, it's a thing. And now the whole kitchen counter will be covered in Tupperware of just all the cookies stored. And I have a cooking schedule that starts tomorrow night. And I have a Christmas party book that's annually, year over year. of all, what worked, what didn't work. I start looking for new cookie recipes around Labor Day. So I added a couple
Dang.
gluten-free recipes this year because I have a couple friends that are gluten-free, and I was like, well, I'll just find some gluten-free recipe because to me, I can add gluten-free because that's like a customer service deal without having to take away
Yes.
another cookie. So
What's like your favorite cookie you've ever made?
I do a white chocolate cranberry cookie
Ooh, yum.
that is so
That's like the
strong.
weight of my heart. That sounds so good.
And I make them big too. I make the balls are like 2 inches around, so when they melt, the cookies are like twice as they're like big. And I have a really good homemade peanut butter cookie recipe.
Ooh.
So I make homemade peanut butter cookies, and then I do the traditional with the Hershey's Kiss in the middle,
Hmm.
but then I also do some where I dip like half of them in regular chocolate, and then I'll do some that I dip in white chocolate,
Yum.
and those
Yeah.
are strong. So that's yeah. So that probably the white chocolate cranberry is really good, and I would say not all of those make it to the party. I do like a double batch, and only about a batch and a half make it to the party. But yeah, but yeah. So we have extra cookies left over, and my wife takes some to her office, and I take some to the guys at the post office. I take some to the fire station around the corner, and just kind of dole them out. Because if I didn't, I would just eat them all, and then I would just be in a sugar coma until New
Yep.
Year's. So
So one thing I wanted to ask about
mhm.
because um, Emu and I are big merch people.
Yes,
Drag Race Bracket Bonanza merch? Question mark? Stickers? Hats?
Stickers?
yes,
Anything I
yeah,
can force onto
yes.
other people?
I was going to say I'll get your mailing address. I do have stickers because I had decals made because they're on some cars,
I
and
saw that, which is what made
I
me want to
had
ask.
I had some smaller ones that I used to give out at the races because I was the I love guerrilla marketing. I love everything about it. I love the whole idea, and there was I wasn't sure what the rules were, so in the very beginning, I would politely subtly kind of ambush other autograph lines. Like for the Mission Foods, when
Yep.
people would line up, I would just and I would kind of start at the front of the line and work my way back. So I was kind of getting further away from the action in case I would never really get caught. But I was like, hey, there's this new game, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. Here's a sticker, but check it out. And then I got QR code, little handout slips. Um, but yeah, so I have stickers. I'm happy, and there will be um, probably hats and T-shirts next year.
Okay.
Um, so I did a limited run of hats this year, just so I'd have some hats. Um, but yeah, so we'll have. Let's just table talk it real quick
Hmm.
because we did a survey. Did you get the survey, Kyra?
Mm,
You
I don't remember.
probably right after the end of the season because
I
it
might
went to
have.
every. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
that
think
was one of the
I'm
questions.
sure I did.
One of the questions was about merch. About would you like stickers, hats, T-shirts, hoodies? I mean, really, you know, that would probably be the run the gamut. But I think we'll probably have some T-shirts, um, and for sure stickers because people love stickers, and then
Yep.
hats. Um, so now I'm looking at. I'm a big fan of the trucker hat.
Hmm.
So I probably have some flex fits and maybe some trucker hats that'll like super old school, like
Yeah.
early big the tall bill with the point
Yep.
on it. So very retro, but I think that's probably where we're going to go with that. So,
Retro is very in right now. People love that.
but, but yeah, so there will be merch, and the plaques will probably be the same. I'm going to try to come up with some other um, more random type awards, like if guys we had a couple guys get perfect brackets.
Oh wow.
Um, Shockingly, a lot in pros like motorcycle because that category, for whatever reason, if
That's
you
where all
just
my good stuff was coming from.
I
I
know
was like, this is
it's
one thing I know.
Yeah, and so that we had a couple people do that. May do a couple deals where if you correctly, since we make people pick the top speed
Hmm.
for the tiebreaker, um, if a guy wins because he had like he picked the top speed perfectly, um, an award for like something like that, or like closest to top speed, and just kind of trick, just to kind of again make it cool for people to play.
Yeah.
Um, Gonna try to. Erica was gracious enough to kind of make a quick little video announcing the overall winner,
Hmm.
um,
I saw that.
and so gonna try to incorporate more things like that, whether it's more driver interaction with winners and like
Hmm.
picking things. It's funny because when we started it, some of the PR people were like, "Hey, no one else can see our bracket, right?"
Oh my gosh.
You know, well, your bracket is like confessional. It's just basically between you and your lord or whatever deity you're worshiping that week. So it yeah, so but then drivers were like, "Well, I guess I could play." And I was like, "Yeah, you could play. It'd be weird." But and there's no rule against it, but they were like, "Yeah, I mean, so there may be some celebrity picks at some races. I'm going to try to, maybe for the US Nationals, I might have a kicking around the idea of if I had some celebrities pick, like basically
Hmm.
have like Don Garlits pick a top fuel ladder, Don
Oh, that'd be
Perdome pick a
fun.
funny car ladder. Um, you know, I don't know who I would get. I mean, because Greg Anderson's still racing, but get a really cool pro stock guy to pick a ladder, and then get, like Byron Hines or somebody to pick the pro stock motorcycle ladder, and then you could pick against them, kind of deal.
Oh, that'd be cool. I like
Some
that.
kind of some fan deal of if you pick a better ladder than those guys, you win a prize or something. So
Yeah.
I'm constantly kind of scheming on ways to make it really cool. And I'm also open. Open eyes. I've had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, hey, will you do pro mod? Will you do like the pro race that's coming up in February
Oh
that they're
yeah.
doing?" For pro mod, I think that's a pretty small audience, but I don't really care. But the
Hmm.
problem with that is there's some races where pro mod qualifies on Saturday and then they go right into elimination Saturday night.
Yeah. It's a very
So
short
there's not
turnaround time.
sort of a turnaround. For the
Yeah.
pro superstar shootout, the cool thing about that race is it's a chip draw.
Hmm.
So there's not really a true ladder
Yeah.
because it's randomized. So you can't really do it for that. So and I had people asking about like the junior dragster uh, Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, but again, you run into the same deal where there's just not enough turnaround time to fill out
Yeah.
ladders, and also, man, you wade into that junior dragster world. Those parents are mean.
Oh my
The-
God.
yeah,
Honestly, some of the meanest people I've ever
it's
met at racetracks are junior
yes,
dragster parents. I'm
junior
like,
dragster. And when I worked at the Motorplex, I got into more arguments with junior dragster parents than anyone else.
yeah.
And it's a pressure cooker. I get it. But it's yeah. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do.
Yeah, no.
I'd love to have junior dragster kids play, but I'm not going to do a junior dragster bracket.
No. You're just gonna get a lot of hate emails.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a great way to turn my really relatively 99% positive community environment into just hate fest.
My only thing that I had wondered if it was possible, but I don't think it is. I think we run into that short turnaround time is the nostalgia funny car series that they did this year because
Yeah,
those old school guys, like that is where like
yeah,
I love, like that's what, also like what I grew up with. And I have a lot of opinions about those things, but and I know a lot of people, that community, they're also trying to make themselves bigger.
right.
But I do think you run into that same sort of
Same as the
very
turnaround
short
time.
turnaround time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I am hopeful that based on the success of Caps's um, Prudhomme car this year, the Hot Wheels
Hmm.
car,
Yep.
that I'm hoping we're going to see more guys doing true throwback cars. Because to me,
I would love that.
I would love to get to a point where, like at Bristol I think Bristol would be the perfect track to do like Darlington does, where everybody does a
Mhm.
throwback. And I think sponsors realize, okay, we'll get just as much attention, even if our decal's a little bit smaller on the car, if we let our guy do a Wonder Wagon car, or if John Force ran the Brute Force car,
Yep.
and because I thought the Cap Steel, that Hot Wheels car with Prudhomme being there was just
Oh, it was so cool. I was
monumental.
so jealous that I wasn't there.
Yeah, and it was just super, and just seeing Prudhomme. I mean, Prudhomme's one of my favorite drivers. Um, so just seeing that, I think um, Caps has kind of talked around it a little bit. I think he's trying to get a deal to run an Army funny car for this coming for 2024.
Oh my
But I
gosh,
don't
that would be
know.
so cool.
That would be. I would break the bank on buying whatever merch there
Oh
was
my
for that.
gosh, yes.
Diecast uniform shirts. What I mean, it would be here. Just take my credit card, Ron, and just ring it up and just have it delivered to my hotel.
Just run up a
So
tab.
right, exactly. So I'll take it all.
I have kind of an embarrassing story to tell. Okay, so it's not like embarrassing like in like the big in like, real life, but when I was 12, I think, was when I my dad took me to Seattle for the first time because we had just been like bracket racing and doing all that stuff. And we were just, walking around with all the other people. I'm just like, oh my God, everything's so cool. And we stop in front of Spencer Massey's pit when he was racing for Prudhomme.
Mhm.
And everyone's like clamoring because he's in there, like trying to like get a picture of him, an autograph. And it's like anytime the snake is anywhere, it's like the crowd's part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he walks by, he's like walking through, kind of like just like, kind of minding his own business. But he walks by me and he puts his hand on my arm. And it was like meeting God for 12-year-old me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, Prudhomme just touched me as he walked by. My dad was like, are you okay?
It's no, but I totally get. He is hands down the coolest person I've ever met,
He's so
and
cool.
it's cool the vibe. I mean, so this is my. I worked for Force for 13, 14 seasons. So Snake was kind of around,
Mm-hmm.
and just out of the blue one day, I get this phone call, and it was a number I didn't recognize, but it said Santa Clara, California, and I answer. The best image for me is the fact that my phone now tells me spam risk,
Oh, yeah.
because I at least know to avoid those. Because prior to that, if I didn't recognize the number, I still answered because it could be a media person that I don't know
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So I get this call from Santa Clara, California, and there's a guy, and he's like, "Hey, this is Don Prudhomme. I wanted to see. I'm going to start Baja racing, and I was told you might be able to help me out with a press release." And I seriously thought it was a prank call.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
so I'm like, "Yeah, sure, sure, Don Prudhomme. Like, this is how I'm talking. Sure,
Yeah.
whatever you want. You want me to write a press release for you?" Oh, and he's like, "Yeah, it's this Nora race, and I'm doing it with Jegs, and got to do something." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah. You just gonna go drive out into the desert? Of course you are. Whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah. Elena um, gave me your number," and I immediately realized, "Oh shit." It was Elena Schur, the writer for Hot Rod Magazine, who was
Mm-hmm.
working on the Prudhomme biography, and we've been talking about it. So she had told him. So then I realized I'm talking to Don Prudhomme, and he's asking me to do work for him.
Yeah.
So immediately, so I was like, "Yeah, sure," and I full recovered. Um, and so I'm in, start working with him on some things. And one day, my daughter, who was in high school at the time, she's like, "Your voice changes when you talk to Don Prudhomme." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, I mean, you talk to people all the time that are famous and whatever." She goes, "But when you're talking to Prudhomme, your voice gets higher." And I was like, "That, I mean, doesn't surprise me because I was not a drag racing guy at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I have memories of watching Wide World of Sports, Snake and Mongoose.
Mm-hmm.
I had the Hot Wheels cars. So Abby, I was like, hey, I go, so let me tell you why this is. She's a huge Taylor Swift fan. I go, imagine 30 years from now, Taylor Swift calls you out of the blue and is like, hey, I want you to write a press release for me.
Yeah.
That's exactly what is happening every time Don Prudhomme calls me. If you would have told 8-year-old Elon that Don the Snake Prudhomme would just be casually calling him to just like, hey man, what's up? And I get those calls probably every other month. Hey man, what's going on?
Oh my God.
Snake. And he's yeah. So when I started working for him, I actually saw him at an event, and because we'd been doing everything, and I was like, hey, just real quick, I go, when you hired me, you really weren't sure who I was. You kind of knew about me, but you didn't really know. And he's like, no, he goes, I kind of figured you're always that big guy that was beside Force all the time. And he goes, I had a pretty good idea. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. But yeah, he's great now. But I have him in my phone just as Snake, which is just ridiculous. And then he's a big texter.
Oh, interesting.
And so he will send you texts, and he will sign texts with a snake emoji.
Oh my God, this is my new favorite piece of information.
And it is 1000% not douchey. Anyone else that did that, you'd be like,
oh, it would be the worst.
You're
Yeah.
a complete douchebag. Stop that immediately. But Prudhomme, of course you will sign your text with a snake emoji. You're a snake. So my wife hears me talking about how cool Prudhomme is. And he was the Texas Motorplex legend a couple years ago. And I drove him around for 3 days. And it's still rattling around in my head. It will be some kind of movie or play, because it's like that, the play The King and I, where the guy spends like 3 days with the king of wherever.
Yep.
It was just like that. I was just with him all the time. And we did an autograph session for the Fan Fest, and my wife actually came down, and we're at this corner table in this bar, and she'd been hearing me talk about how cool Snake was, and she's like, yeah. So there's like 6 of us. It's like me and Amanda Busick and Joe Costello and Snake, and my wife comes up, and she kind of works her way around the table, and he's like, hello, I'm Don Prudhomme. And you could see her knees buckle, and she completely knocked every drink on the table over. Just spilled drinks everywhere. And she's like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And I was like, see what happened? I mean,
it's
Ryan
the
McGee.
Effect. You can't not be in awe of him.
It's a thing. It's like Ryan McGee tells the same story. He was on an elevator with his wife, who's a fantastic person, and Snake gets on, and he recognizes Ryan. He's like, hey man, what's up? He turns to Ryan's wife, Erica, and is like, hello, I'm Don Prudhomme. And she literally had to grab, like, she got weak in the knees. And she's like, what happened? And Ryan's like, Don Prudhomme, that's what happened. I mean,
literally.
Yeah. But he doesn't even think he's cool. Like, he's like, oh yeah, will anyone care about this? Yeah, they'll care because you're Don Prudhomme.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You're kind of a big deal. So.
Yeah. And the fact that he just casually put together one of the greatest motorsports couples in history with Leah and Tony is like just another like taking the boss.
Matchmaker Don Prudhomme. Yeah. So
that could be a show.
He was also the architect of his own undoing in Funny Car. This is a guy named when Wayne Emery went to become Raymond Beadle's crew chief for the Blue Max Funny Car. They just couldn't. The car just would not run. It just kept blowing up, and they kept changing everything, and this was going on for a whole year. And Prudhomme's telling the story actually at Wayne Emery's funeral, and he's like, stuff out, and I'm, Raymond's getting frustrated, and he goes, so I'm over there in their pits, and I'm sitting on the front wheel, and I'm just casually unscrewing the fuel tank cap, and then I'm, just kind of just messing around with it. And I unscrewed it, and I bent down to pick it up, and I just kind of got a whiff of their fuel tank, and I was like, hey, Wayne, I go, I don't know. He goes, there's something going on with your fuel tank. I don't know what the deal is, but so Wayne was like, okay. He goes, well, we've effing changed everything else on this car. We haven't changed the fuel tank. So Prudhomme goes, so they changed the fuel tank, and Prudhomme goes, and I didn't win another race for 3 years, and I went to Top Fuel. So Snake basically had a hand in his own undoing, and it ended his 4-year Funny Car World Championship streak. Hey, I think this kind of smells kind of fun. You might want to look at this. Okay. Yeah, but he's the greatest. He cracks. I mean, but he really does. He will just call and be like, "Hey, man, what's up, Snake?" Of course, it's Snake. You're on my phone as Snake. You don't have to identify yourself. I recognize your voice. So
that is so wild. Drag racing is like the craziest sport because
It
regular people like us end up just like casually being besties with all these legends, and I'm just like the first time I interacted on Twitter with Ron Capps like forever ago, before I was like even in any of this, because I was kind of like Twitter friends with like the DHR crew and some of his friends, and like when we kind of first interacted and he started following me, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy how it becomes that. It's I always say this. It's the world's most accessible sport.
It is. It's the great equalizer.
It
is.
It
is. And it's funny. It's been a while, but Danny Trejo, the actor, is a big drag racing guy.
Yeah.
And he would come to the races in Pomona, and I would see him, and he'd just be around. And one day, I'm just kind of off the side of the starting line, and he just walks up and starts engaging me in conversation. And I was like, "Oh yeah!" And the whole time I'm thinking is, "You're El Tortuga from Breaking Bad. You're the turtle. The turtle is talking to me. You made Robert Rodriguez movies. I mean, what? I have so many things I want to whip your ass about, but no, I will take our casual
play it cool."
conversation. And the whole time I'm standing there, I'm thinking, please let one of my 9 million friends that are out here, please just take a picture of me casually having a conversation. Danny Trejo. No, just have to have it stored in the memory bank. But he was just like, so, and I was just like, I'm seriously looking around like, well, he's certainly
like, where is anyone that I know?
Right. And it could not be possibly talking to me. But he was just like, yeah, he knew I'd been around and was like, oh yeah, I needed someone to talk drag racing with.
That's crazy. It's funny. When I told my dad, because I talked to him yesterday, we're like doing family stuff, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing this interview. And he is the funniest person because he never thought that like, me watching racing with him growing up and like taking me to races would like become like have such an impact on me. But now that it has, I'll like tell him little things that happen with like interactions with other drivers and other sports. But like the drag racing ones are the ones that I think like kind of like fill his soul, because that's where we started.
Sure.
But he's like, oh yeah, good luck with your interview. He goes, when you become like a household name and people start inviting you to do things, can I tag along? And I was like, yes, you can tag along.
Yeah. You need to be sure to bring him next year when you come to the races. Be sure to bring him with you. We'll roll out the red carpet.
For sure. I wouldn't pick anybody else. I mean, unless obviously Emu and I want to do stuff together too. But if I'm at home and I have the option to bring Dad with me, I'll bring him.
Yeah, for sure. Emu, you do not need Kyra to come to the races. You just reach out. You can be your own.
Yeah, that too.
You can be your own thing.
We have a deal because she doesn't ever show her face when we do our streams. And she said she would show her face on camera if she and I were at an event or doing an IRL thing together. So I'm trying to like make that a thing as well, because the world needs to see your face.
No.
But that's smart, Emu, because I've always very much been a behind the scenes guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, because of Drag Racing Bracket Bonanza, I became like more promoting it and more talking about. I mean, I love to talk, obviously, but I'm more like promoting Justin Ashley or Josh Hart or Cameron Crusoe or whatever. So when we first got this thing started, and I was like, I have these ideas for these videos to kind of explain what Drag Race Bracket Bonanza is. And then Natalie Torrance, who runs Innovation Creative Experts, does a lot of social media for people. She's like, well, you're going to make those videos, right? And I was like, Yes. Yeah. So that was an interesting afternoon of just like me. I understand the functionality of it, but I was not super comfortable just standing there doing that. But
This didn't come naturally for me either. Like when I obviously I'm very comfortable now, but being in front of a camera was like forced upon me in high school when I did communications classes, and everyone in my group was like, "Okay, you get to be on camera," and I was like, "Oh shit." They still use one, like I graduated high school 100 years ago, but they still use one of the ads that my group made where my face is like hugely in it, and I'm like, you couldn't just like take something of me now, like Photoshop my new face onto my old face. Like much more comfortable in front of the camera now, but kind of thrust upon me. So I do understand her like behind the scenes, but I'm also like, come up here with me.
right.
I just like anonymity.
Exactly.
Yeah, that you like that.
Yeah.
And also, you know, you're going to be able to fly under the radar with your nips are weird icon.
Exactly.
Hopefully that wasn't. And they are weird. Let's just go ahead and get that out.
Exactly. That's where the name comes from.
Yeah.
We have other streamers that like we watch together on Twitch, and like people that have known us for a long time, and they just straight up call her nips, and it makes me laugh every single time. Like Jason, our friend Jason, does that. He'll just like yell it out. I'm like, I guess Emu's here.
And I'm so glad you rolled right into Emu, because I was seriously thinking, I go, am I just going to roll with nips are weird? Because I'll do it. I mean,
Because that's not even her, like Emu is not obviously her given name, but that's the name that I call her. Like that's what she is in our friend group, and that's what she likes to be called. So I protect her identity.
Nobody knows who I am. Actually, that's
right.
That's
I like that. I feel like I could be talking to a Bond villain, and it kind of,
Exactly.
okay.
Yep.
What's wrong with that?
Yep. Fly under the radar. Nobody will expect me.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you're gonna roll up in your Prius and be like, "It was me all along."
It was me all along.
Right, exactly.
That's how they'll know
Exactly.
I'm a Prius.
So great. I am now going to scrutinize every Prius driver I come across, thinking,
that it's me. Yep.
could this be Emu?
Probably not.
Well, you might get a chance to do that in Brainerd because that's her home state.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
She's a Minnesota lady.
Yep.
The land of 10,000 lakes, which, we do the big Stampede of Speed for Dallas. The biggest, I'm trying to get all the tracks to give their own trophies.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's a travesty that Brainerd, they give you the walleye from the NHRA. They should also give you a stuffed walleye fish. So you get a walleye and a walleye for winning the Brainerd race.
That's smart.
Huge missed opportunity.
I would love it. Honestly, right?
Yeah.
Gotta use the wordplay where you can.
Or even better, give them a live walleye, like on a string.
Just be like, good luck.
Here you go.
Like you just caught it. So you're sitting there holding a fish and the trophy. They can just cook it up for you right there on the starting line.
You know, it's funny because I did look into when we were trying to figure out like because we do want to do some sort of like competitive racing stuff together in person, like when we get the chance to do that. So I started like looking into things. And because they have so many lakes in Minnesota, they do ice racing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw it on an episode of Faster with Finnegan. My friends host that show. And I was like, we could probably do this and not die.
Probably.
I love the fact that they race snowmobiles at the Brainerd race.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, seriously, we can make a race happen.
We could. Our combined powers, we could make something.
Combined powers.
You know, it's like He-Man. You combine your powers and it's like...
Right. I mean, you guys could be more... I'm definitely going to date myself, but you guys could be more like Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. And you guys could just... Or Wonder Twin Powers activate. I mean, any number of combinations.
Yes, Wonder Twin Powers activate. No, because we don't get to do like for as much as like we're friends and we like hang out and stuff. We don't get to do streams together very often. So I feel like when we do get to do like, we'll do like predictions or whatever together. I always want to like make the most of it.
Sure.
So if we're gonna be like coming together to do actual like things in real life, like go balls to the wall. Like let's do something really cool.
You need to like maximize. It needs to be like a decathlon of events when you're together.
I'm trying to like in my brain. I haven't like talked to anyone about this yet, but I have some friends who are driver coaches for, GT3,
Right.
GT4 racing. So I'm trying in my brain to think like, who can I like call on into like helping us so we have like actual tips if we want to do like road course stuff, because I feel confident in the drag racing stuff. I know how to go in a straight line. I'm good there. But I haven't spent very much time on other tracks. So who can I call into helping me? There's like 3 people I'm thinking about.
Yeah. You definitely want to come in as a ringer, like, oh, just real so like, oh, hey, let's just see what's going to happen on this, 2-mile road course.
Exactly.
And secretly not knowing that you've been driving it, on a road course for the last 6 months and you've been in a Forza full simulator,
100%.
oh, is this how this works? And then you just burn out and just take off.
It's like, what's an apex?
Yeah, what?
I surely don't know.
Yeah, that is actually true. I would say channel your inner Max Verstappen, but that would make me mad.
Yeah, no. I'll
No,
wear
I
a
did
helmet,
see it.
that's all I know.
Yeah, please do. And it's funny because while I say I want to like do all these things, the biggest thing for me has always been like safety, because you see a lot of people do post videos on YouTube doing some
Yes.
unsafe shit on racetracks, and I'm like, who
Right.
signed the waiver for you to do this and film at their facility? Like, I'm not trying to be a
Well,
lawsuit.
yeah, that's the thing is you just, just because you think it's a good idea and you have the access to the equipment does not make it a good idea.
No. I think we're just a little bit like with like the bigger YouTubers who have the resources in the audience. It's just like, how can I get the most views, and like the safety
Right.
and the important things really falls down into the wayside. So I've always been one of those people that's like, I always do this on my show. It's annoying, but I tell people, if you're going to do any of the things that we're talking about, or just do it where you're supposed to and do it with the proper safety equipment. Because people get hurt doing dumb stuff all the time because they think it's
They
cool.
do doing dumb stuff all the time.
Don't be a liability. Don't be a lawsuit.
Right. Yeah. Don't become someone that's going to let them lose their sanctioning body status.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. Because we're losing tracks all the time anyway.
Right. Yeah. That's the last thing we need.
Yeah. I do feel like it's unfortunate that we are losing so many tracks, because the sport, I feel like, is in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's the thing is I think there's more that are hopefully coming on, like Kansas City. And I think, I think Denver hopefully will have something sorted out, maybe be in that area. Yeah, I would love to see. I'd love for us somehow to get back to like the Atlanta area, that part of the country. But yeah, but I get it's a tough business to get into for a variety of reasons. And then when you get residential creep and all that thing, all that stuff, it's tough.
Yeah, there was a period of time where, like, the track I grew up with, the local one, they were purchased by the port of Bremerton, and the city just wanted to do all this stupid crap, and like they tried to shut it down, and it was like a big backlash. But it's like, you see, like, the heart and soul of drag racing really is these small local tracks. Like,
Yeah,
it's
for
the
sure.
bracket racing guys. Like, we're nothing
Yes.
without them. So it's always a little bit like, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been ignoring my chat. They're like talking amongst themselves. So I told them, I was like typing in chat, like, if you guys have anything you want to say. I don't know if any of them are like paying me any attention now, because I was like, I'll get to you in a minute. But I'll give them a minute if they decide they want to have anything to say. But yeah, I think I took notes for this and then completely ignored all of them. But I think, oh, they're blaming each other now. We're blaming Quackers for our moderator Quackers. We're blaming him for everything in chat. Love that for us. He's the one. So when we did our fantasy league, we invited him, and he swept the floor with us. Like, he destroys. Every time I would get points, he would all of a sudden be 300 points ahead of me, and I was just like,
nice.
Because he, like, I'm not like racing stupid, but like F1 is a little bit like, oh my god, sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, Emu and I both had like we set up this league, we're excited, and then we both had serious like family things happen to where we couldn't do it, but he didn't miss any of those,
Yeah,
and the
it's
gap
okay.
was just insurmountable.
Nice.
Overtook us.
He really did. And then I couldn't even open my fantasy app yesterday because it like crashed. And they were like, sorry. And I was like, I just want to see how many points I lost by. It was like 298. But I beat you, Emu, and that's what I care about.
That's fine.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Ours was close though. It was like less than 100 points, I think.
Okay, that's promising.
Because he did one team and we both did multiple teams, which I think was our undoing.
Yeah, we should have put our focus in one spot.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so shout out to Pericles who said, I'm just listening. Drag racing is the one form of racing that I know very little about other than the cars go yum.
Yeah, they do. They go meow, but it's like really, really loud. And then
You
5 minutes
feel
later,
it in your soul.
2 more cars go meow, and then
This is why I wanted to do this, because I want my audience to like know what I'm talking about and have fun with
right.
it.
And the thing that drag racing um, is I'm never a guy that like when I see other sports talking, other motorsports, I don't feel like I need to clap back at them about, oh, drag racing is, super accessible or we're the fastest, but it
Yeah.
is unique in that it's built. That was like when Vines was a big deal, like the social, like the 6-second video. I
Yep.
was like, how drag racing didn't dive into that because that's the
Yeah.
perfect vehicle, no pun intended, to promote those races because it happens in 3.5, 4 seconds, and it's perfect for gambling. It's like I always go to baseball games, and I rarely watch the baseball games because I spend most of the time talking. And drag racing's perfect for that because you can watch 2 cars go and have a conversation. 2 cars, conversation, 2 cars, conversation. And then after 30 or 40 minutes, go out to the pits and get some food, listen to a band, and then kind of come back. So it has the ebb and flow of hockey. You've got the, so it has all these cool elements that all the motorsports have that I think, plus the accessibility of just being able
Yeah.
to, if you have a question, I feel like for the most part, you can ask anybody, hey, why do the cars do this? And there's not a ton of drag racing motorsports shaming going on.
Yeah, there's not a lot of gatekeeping in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just because every level of the sport is represented at every national event. Because there are guys there, the sportsman level guys, all the way up to top fuel, funny car, pro stock motorcycle. So you get every level of competitor at every event. So you've got people that are there racing their first national event in Super Comp or Top Sportsman or whatever, and then they're probably equally as clueless as some of the people in the grandstand sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I love the fact that you guys bring the Formula One aspect into it and the drag racing aspect of it and the road courses, because all those sports offer so many different things, but the overlap passion of the speed and the sounds and the smells is just really cool.
Yeah, it is. And that was like one of the things when we started this. We've been through, so many iterations and personnel changes, content changes. But when we got to like this place where we're at now, what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do this is because motorsports is so fun and it's such like a great community, and it's just to be able to like be the one spot where I talk about like 3 or 4 different things and people can come and like learn and like make friends. Like that's like what I wanted. And I wanted like my friends outside of racing to have an interest and want to do it too. And I'm happy that Emu has stuck along for it and she has fun with it.
I do.
So it's been like the best of both worlds. I get to talk about all the nerdy things, and I also get to educate my friends and anyone else on the internet who wants to hang out. But yeah. Ooh, look at us going for an hour and a half.
Nice.
Yeah. How about that?
I didn't really like set in my mind. I didn't like set a time limit. I was just like, let's go and see what happens. But
Yeah, I didn't either. I just figured you were just going to be like, eventually you're just going to be like, okay, Elon, thanks a lot for coming on, and then just disconnect.
Goodbye. End.
that's
And scene.
I have all the power here. Clicks end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already on pins and needles since Emu bounced me 90 minutes ago. I feel like I'm really playing with house money at this point.
What can I say?
oh.
I have all the power.
She rules with an iron fist.
I do.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't even be able to track her down because all I have
Exactly.
is her voice.
Exactly.
It would be like taking part 4. I would just be like just trying to track somebody down by the sound of their voice.
And this is exactly why I do this.
So smart. So smart.
Always one step ahead of the game.
Meanwhile, my face is plastered on everything I do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to make a brand for myself, okay?
I get it. I get it.
I can make a brand for my voice. Thank you very much.
When I hear
Lives
Emu
in the shadows.
sell me a Prius in the next round of commercials, then I'll know it's really taken off.
Just one day, maybe.
Oh yeah, I didn't thank our sponsor for today because we don't have any. It's me. Because I decided to put this together. So thanks to me.
Thanks to
I'm today's sponsor. We have very reasonable rates if anyone else wants to sponsor.
We can work a combo deal for Unlikely Motorsports Duo Drag Race Bracket Bonanza.
Please.
Quite a mouthful.
That would be so fun.
We'll have to shorten it. I like acronyms. I'll think of something.
Yeah.
I will tell people to play anything and watch anything that I think is worth it. And I think this is worth it. So I created a command in our chat that links to the website. So people can go like.
And we can maybe circle up after the first of the year and reboot. So when there's a little bit of action.
Yeah, for sure.
And then for sure we'll try to get you guys to the Pacific, to the Seattle race. And Emu, if you want to come to Brainerd, I'll protect your identity as best I can.
Perfect.
You can come in completely anonymous.
I could wear a helmet and nobody would know.
Be just
you
like
would
Daft
literally
Punk.
fit right in.
Exactly.
It'd be just like Daft Punk. You could just as long as you stayed in the staging lanes, no one would really be the wiser.
Perfect.
Oh man. I feel like unless there was anything outstanding that nobody's mentioned yet.
This was awesome. I can't thank you guys enough. This was a great conversation. So
no, we appreciate you wanting to even be on the show. Like this was so cool for us.
Yeah.
Well, awesome.
All right, so Emu, I do this at the end. This is how I end every stream we're together. Emu, thoughts, feelings, opinions?
My thoughts, feelings, and opinions are I'm so happy we had an awesome first guest and that we are in agreement that Priuses should be drag racing cars. Thank you.
Yes.
I knew she was going to find an ally in somebody with this.
Yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, as a guy that's 6'3" and a husky hugger, the other thing I like about Priuses is I can ride in them, get out of them, and then pick them up and just put them like right in my little pocket, and then I can just walk right in the mall.
Exactly. You'll never lose it.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have to film a video in Seattle just to be like, oh my God, we did this. But I am the smallest person ever. I'm 5'2.5". So get me like an apple box to stand on.
Yeah, we can do that. We can film you. You can be standing on the guardrail, and then I'll just be standing in front of the guard, and then people will just be like, "Oh, this is a nice little deal." So that's perfect.
Perfect. It works.
All right, so I think that is going to wrap it up for this one. I'll put this on YouTube tomorrow or the next day when I have time to make a thumbnail because I forgot to do that last night. But yeah, I think that's where this is going to go. Yeah, so thanks to our chat for just like listening to us and hanging out. Thanks to you for joining us.
Yes.
My pleasure.
And we'll have to do this again sometime.
For sure. For sure. You guys have a good holiday, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff.